Aloha, I'm Representative Gene Ward, and welcome to A Word with Ward. Today at the State Capitol, we're going to have a very exciting, new, out-of-this-world discussion about space travel. It's about the future. It's about what we just did at the State Capitol, passing a bill that I believe will make Hawaii never again the same as it has been in the past. To discuss A Word with Ward and about space and about the future of space travel in Hawaii, we have three distinguished space travelers, or I should say space experts. My co-host is Representative Angus McKelvey. Angus, welcome, and we look forward to all of the input from West Maui and how you championed the bill, HB 994, through what otherwise were some tumultuous times, ups and downs, and things which otherwise you have been a champion, and I've always been delighted to serve with you as the co-chair of the Small Business Caucus in the House. So we look forward to your input. We also have I'd like to call him the godfather of space travel. Sorry, I know your background may relate a little bit to that. Jim Crisafulli. He is the director of the Office of Aerospace and the executive director of the Japan-U.S. Space Cooperation Mission. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, Science, Technology, and Space Applications Program.
And we're going to be asking you a lot of questions because you are the one who's got a big database. You are the Office of Aerospace Travel, so you are the Mr. Spaceman, as I call you, the godfather of space travel. And we're also delighted to have John Strom from the Enterprise Honolulu. John is the only pilot who is with us today. But John, your background brings you a variety of things to help diversify the economy, and I understand that you and the defense contractors and a lot of what Jim has been doing in the Office of Aerospace is just going to mesh very well.
This is our working partnership, and really to move forward with aerospace development here, it's a public-private partnership because you can't do it without the participation not just of the companies, but the imagination of the people of Hawaii.
And that's exactly why we wanted to have today's show, to show the people what is in the making. And I forgot to mention, Angus, you are the chair of the Economic Revitalization, Business and Military Affairs.
Correct, yes.
And that's what also has been used to stimulate the economy. So let's go to space. Let's put on our helmets and let's give a simulation as an introduction to the people who are watching this. What are we talking about in terms of space travel? And I understand we have a narrator who's going to show us what otherwise is a rocket plane. John, take it.
Imagine sitting on the runway and taking off in this beautiful business jet, you and 6 people. Basically, you're taking off like any other normal jet would be, and you're cruising up to an altitude of roughly 35,000 feet. Now, when you get up to 35,000 feet and off to sea, the engines shut down and the rocket motor in the tail lights up. And for the next minute and a half, you're accelerating from roughly 500 miles an hour up to 3,500 miles an hour. And after a minute and a half, the rocket motor shuts off and you're then going into weightlessness as you coast all the way up to 350,000 feet, which is considered to be the threshold of space.
So 70 miles, huh?
Roughly, yes. What you see on the screen right now is actually a small payload being ejected, part of a scientific payload that this can be. And imagine that this is what you see out the windows of the space plane. You can see the curvature of the Earth. You can see day into night. You can see many things as it noses over at the top of its altitude loop and starts down. As it starts down, it goes down to roughly, and by the way, you're doing about 4 Gs of gravity as the rocket motor is going up. And once you start decelerating, about 4.5 Gs coming down, but weightless for roughly 3 to 4 minutes in between.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but that to me is exciting. How real or how imagined is that? Angus, for example, Representative McKelvey, when we passed that bill, did we see this as something that we're talking about eons down the line, or is it something that's immediate?
At first blush, before I met Jim and found really delved into what the project was, I kind of pictured it this being a ways off. But then after seeing Rocket Plane and Virgin Galactic, and the competition they had, the design competitions, and then hearing about the spaceport that they're building in Hokkaido, it suddenly became very clear to me and the members of the committee that this is the here and now. This isn't something that's far off like the latest Star Trek movie that's, blue screen with CGX. This is something that it's actually going to be happening in very shortly, but we have to position ourselves in a certain place in order to take advantage of this. That's the importance of these bills. There's only a limited amount of FAA spaceport licenses that are going to be issued, and if we, by getting our hat in the door, and hopefully the bill will be signed and the money will be released, we'll be able to get one of those limited licenses, and that puts us, I think, on the, not to use the pun, but on a direct trajectory towards not only space flights for rocket flights for tourism and other things, but also for Hokkaido to Hawaii for business and group travel in the future. 45 minutes, wasn't it, Jim, approximately?
Yes, approximately.
Imagine a businessman in Japan, they have to come to a meeting in Hawaii, they take off at Hokkaido, 45 minutes later they're landing in Kailua or Kailua Kona Airport, they have their meeting and they're back home in Japan that night for dinner.
And it's just a normal airport.
Correct. As
Horizontal,
you land and as you take off, you're a business jet using normal fuels, and in fact, even the rocket motor uses normal fuels, liquid oxygen and jet fuel. So nothing exotic here, normal off-the-shelf stuff. The planes themselves are purpose-built to do this.
Jim, is this four guys talking science fiction, or is this, bring us down to reality? What's going on? You've been in this industry longer than Representative McKelvey and I have, and probably John, even though you did a great narration. What's the reality? What's been taking place, what will take place, and how close to that Hokkaido trip are we actually?
Well, space planes are the next generation aircraft that will take experimental payloads, satellites, and tourists to space. There are a host of US-based companies and foreign nationals that are working on the development of space planes right now. The projection for launch is as early as the second quarter of 2011. These space planes could be taking off. The advantage of space plane technology is that, as John mentioned earlier, you can take off from existing runways without having to build any new infrastructure on normal jet engines. And once you get up to 35,000, 40,000 feet, then you fire the rocket and go to space. So it has a very minimal environmental impact on the launch facility itself. And the launch facility is just a commercial airport. And we'll be looking at several airports in Hawaii to launch space planes from. And the reason we're so well positioned to do this in Hawaii is because our runways are right next to the water. So for safety reasons, that is a very good place to be. There are now 11 states currently applying for or have already received commercial spaceport licenses from the Federal Aviation
So we're
Administration.
behind a little bit now.
Well, not really, because
11 have got it already.
Yeah, yes,
Four
well,
are in the process.
4 have already processed, and another 7 are in the works. We hope to be the 8th, and the bill, House Bill 994, that passed through the legislature in this session, will get us in the game. Now, there are various phases of development for space planes. Phase 1 will be basically takeoffs from Hawaii and returning directly to Hawaii in approximately 45 minutes. The stay for tourists here will be approximately 1 week, in which they will train, as John mentioned earlier, at Kailua, and then they'll be flown over to Kona Airport, stay overnight 1 night, and then on the return from Kona back to Honolulu, they will fly up to 62 miles and have this space experience, roughly about 4 minutes of which will actually be weightless. A tremendous opportunity for
4
people.
minutes of weightlessness.
Yes, 4 minutes of weightlessness.
Have any of you guys experienced weightlessness before?
Yes.
You have experienced weightlessness.
Yes.
What was it like?
It's the type of experience that you never forget after you've done it. But anyone who's ridden good roller coasters has experienced moments of weightlessness. And that's really what you're doing here, only for 4 to 5 minutes over the whole top of this curve. So not only are you weightless, you have a view which very few people on this planet have ever seen.